Everybody, you all right? Welcome to this meeting. I declare the meeting open. I need to make some opening statements. The first thing is that this is a meeting run under the Local Government Act and under Council standing orders. As a consequence, there will be no interjections from anybody in the audience. If there is, I will pause the meeting and ask that person to leave or ask the person to be escorted out. There is to be no interjections of any sort. I'm now going to ask Moko to give us a character.
Your righteous.
Chula tato, chula e tpane. Wairia te ngā kau irikaka, wairia te karawaniwani, wairia te hakaro kino te haka ngā kau. Koua te rongo mau, haka tonia te aroha, haka tīnahia kia maia kia tūkaha. E kake kia ike a meo a te whenua rurukutia te mana haka uhia te tikanga o te kōtahitanga haumi e hui e. I invoke the hearts of those in here today. I invoke all of your passions. I invoke and cast out any bad thoughts so that we can come together in peace with respect today to make the decisions that will be for the betterment of our lands, for the enhancement of the mana of those here together as one.
Good, thank you. I would now ask everybody, I yesterday attended the funeral of Dave Cull, who was the former president of the Local Government New Zealand and also former mayor of Dunedin. And so everybody will be upstanding for a minute's silence, please. Thank you all very much. Before we ask Moko to move this motion, I just need you all to know that Moko will move this motion. It will be seconded. Order, please. It will be seconded by Rachel. I then intend to move an amendment. That will be seconded by Dave Pollard, and then I will ask for speakers for and against. Felicity Foy wants to speak for it, and John Busich, and there will no doubt be others who will want to speak against, and they will be welcome to do so. Yes, up to 3 on each side will speak for and against. And when I move my motion, I will make a statement. I expect Michael to make a statement as he moves his. And of course, the seconder is welcome to make comments if they wish. And that's how the meeting will proceed. We will vote on the amendment, and then depending on the outcome, we will close. Before we start the meeting and ask Michael to put his motion, we've had 5 people who, within the appropriate time, asked to make a presentation to council. And I've got to say 5 is a significant number. Normally we restrict it to 2, but I felt it was appropriate given that I had respectful requests from 5 different people or groups to make a 5-minute presentation. I have allowed that to happen and have rung each of the representatives to allow that to happen. And I make it clear, and it has been made clear, it's 5 minutes. You will get a 4-minute bell and it must conclude at 5 minutes. And we don't expect any response from anyone other than the presenter to make their 5-minute presentation. So with that, I'm going to ask you, if you would please call the first presenter. We will have a bell here. We will give you a 4-minute bell so that you know to finish within a minute.
So Pat and Andrew, on behalf of Whangaroa Hapu, if you could come up to the podium, please.
Rangatira mā, e ngā whae, e ngā whatiripananga, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Your worship, the mayor, members of the council, I just want to share with you very, very quickly that I'll only be here for 2 minutes, and I'm sharing the 5 minutes with our fire pack. But briefly, I will introduce my paper is based around separatism and racism. But of course, on completing that, there is an upside. Recently, a former New Conservative Party leader, Elliot Ilalei, reportedly labelled Māori wards as nothing less than a nasty style of racism. I believe his comments are out there in the community. Māori representation in local government means working in a true partnership with Māori, not separate them. Māori wards are clearly not a form of separatism. Racism is not simply treating people differently on race. The reality of racism is started in a system of power. We're experiencing that today. When a racial group is oppressed by systems of power and is disseminated apart based on their race, that's racism. For example, adding to or removing elected representatives from ordinary wards, as is our case, can only be reviewed by independent government commissioner, anybody around this table. But the creation of Māori wards and Māori wards alone can be vetoed by local population, irrespective of how recent and justified Whangaroa District Council may choose it to be. Does that sound fair or equitable to you all who voted against establishing Māori wards at your previous Whangaroa District Council meeting? The upside of all of that is this. Māori wards would help bring forward the views.
You're halfway through your time.
Sorry?
You are halfway through your 5 minutes.
Yes, I understand that. I've got to watch. The views and aspirations of whānau and hapu would help to ensure local decision making in a fairer and more inclusive manner. Will represent a sector of the community that is currently not represented across the council table today. Would provide stronger Māori representation as Whangaroa District Council continues to learn more about its heritage and history, and notwithstanding, it is an obligation consistent with the Treaty of Waitangi. But in my opening statement about the comments by Elliot Ilalei is this. Funny enough, his comments were based around a person called Hitler, who we don't want to mention or to like. Hitler, of course, was well known for his love of establishing mechanisms for increasing meaningful minority participation in democratic governing institutions. That's what he was. Kia koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
Kia ora tātou, kia ora koutou mō kā koe Shelley, ngā hunga I tautoko I tēnei kaupapa, that for Māori wards. At school, as a child, I was registered as a half caste. Okay, I was registered as a half caste because my father was Pākehā, my mother was Māori, I was only half a human being. I agree with what Hami Piripi told you once, and I'm sorry for the abruptness of this, but there's one thing Hami left out, and it's very important that every Pākehā in this country who calls himself a New Zealander learns to speak Māori, otherwise they're not New Zealanders, in my opinion. Also, they need to get a full history of what their tupuna have done to this country in the 500 years they've been here. Our Māori were here 600 years before them. Before Abel Tasman came here, they learned how to live in the environment, how to live with it. In the last 500 years, my Pākehā tupuna and your Pākehā tupuna have destroyed our environment. And they've destroyed our Māori mātauranga that allowed us to live in our own country. That is enough for me, but Pākehā, get your act together and learn your true history. One minute, you get it.
Tane Tāhere on behalf of Ngāti Tautari Hapu and Te Ao.
O ana roto ke ana. O ana roto ke ana. Ko whaoro kei wai whakaurua. Tani whaoro ngā puhi te aia. Kāre, irunga, inga ngā ruroa. Kārere, irunga, inga runui. Tāringa rahi e kore tataia te rangi. E tuturu whare nui tu tītaha waka nui. Tuturu whare nui tītaka waka nui. Ka timata te taima I 90. Tēnā koutou ngā kai kaunihira, our esteemed local councillors. Tēnā koe e te korumatua. His Worship the Mayor John Carter. Taihua ke nei e rā kupu esteemed in worship. I have come here today first and foremost as a Māori resident of Te Iringa Kākahu o Rahiri, otherwise known as Te Iringa. Being of Māori descent, I support having Māori wards for reasons of inequitable, ethical and systemic racist natures. But I know there's others in the room and they can explain that better than I can. As a resident of the constituent within Kaikohe Hokianga Ward, I support Māori wards as a means to strengthening my Māori voice, being 51% or more of the population within this final district council area. This will surely go a long way towards fixing issues I face on my pā, on my marae, my awa and my river. At an operational level, I just simply don't see me in your organisation. So from the top down, let's work to change that. I stand here as a proud and apologetic Ngā Puhitani, Ngāti Tautahi Uri, intellect mokopuna, indigenous genius, descendant of the Whakamenanga. I'm proud of it. So it takes a lot for you to tika me, or to fool me. I say this, Your Worship the Mayor, because I believe when the last vote for the Māori wards failed, I believe your kōrero that followed was an attempt to redeem yourself. But guess what? It was flawed, shot with holes, and had no substance or mana. There's a saying, you know, Your Worship, culture eats strategy for lunch. Meaning, look closer at the culture of your council and your council members before talking a good strategy. But moving on, I secondly am here as a hapu member of Ngāti Tautei, wearing the pōtai of Te Ringa Marae Trustee, kai kōrero on Wai Māori, Chair of Te Whare Awhenua Ngāti Tautei Incorporation. Over and above, I stand here for my hapu with mana motuhake intact, and a true Te Tiriti partner. Let me contextualise that quickly for you. At the signing of Te Tiriti o Waitangi, 10 of the 40 chiefs identified themselves as Ngāti Tautahi. Hone heke wharerahi Tato Haere Rewa Moka Hira Te Marama, one of the first wahine to sign. Rauri Tai Whanga Tawata Nui. Many more chiefs of the whakaputanga signed and identified themselves as Ngāti Tautahi. So I stand here as a proud Ngāti Tautahi uri with my tupuna aside me, my people here, also having to stand outside when they're from here. I stand here with their support. So, I ask you, and I know what a true Te Tiriti partnership is. I say with all of this, I have Tiriti clout, Wuranjeen. We take our hapu role as kaitiakitanga of the Treaty of Waitangi seriously. Beyond that, of an average citizen, and through my hapu lens, I see you differently, Far North District Council. I see myself as an older tuakana to you. I arrived on these lands before you. I know my record far exceeds your statistical databases. I'm more experienced than you around kaitiakitanga. The currents of Pānaki Tere were flowing stronger before you were born. My lands were occupied free and flourishing with kumara hangi feeding always with an A-grade standard called Manakitanga. I told you releasing 1,800 cubic metres of tūtai into my Pānaki Tere was wrong. I told you where you put that road was over my tupuna and over the urupa of my tupuna. I told you that the whenua was tapu, not unproductive, and I keep telling you the water is mine, not yours. You see, it's around this time we get hoha. So I decide to drop the worship and I decide to drop the esteem and call you representative only. You see, when writing a speech, one chooses what the tone of it is, and making it clear you are not a good treaty partner. Voting yes to Māori words is all about a step in the right direction, Felicity Foy. It strengthens our hapu voice, our Māori world view becomes inherent within our mana, Te Tiriti partnership. I, Ngāti Tautei, challenge you, the council, to do right by Te Tiriti. Ask yourself, are you an expert on Te Tiriti relationships? Because I am. Kia ora tātou.
Again, the speakers are to 5 minutes, sit down, and the next speaker. If that happens again, I will adjourn this meeting, and the councillors will adjourn to another room. Order. Councillors will adjourn to another room where the meeting will continue with amongst us. Right, can I have the next speaker, please?
Your Worship,
Kia
I'm here to ask you and your councillors to take courage. 181 years ago today, Kawiti, Pomare and Tirarau were the last to sign the treaty. And they were full of angst. They didn't know which way this deal they were making was going to take them. And it's taken us 181 years to get to this day. When we are saying to you, have courage and let's bring to fruition what the people had envisaged in signing up to the treaty. Not the misinterpretation over these 181 years. The words that were spoken on that day said by Governor Hodgson was he iwi tahi tata, misinterpreted by all and sundry ever since to mean we are one people. What he said was, together we are one nation, and we have not been there from then till now. That's why you have to have courage to allow these wards to come to fruition, because it's the best way that we can express the ambition of people who sat here 181 years ago and tried to dream of a country and a nation that would work together. Any other thing we've done since have been predicated on your interpretation of what working together meant. And we have stood on the sidelines of history and watched what you have done. And for the most part, we have shook our heads, not only in the shame that what our ancestors had put together with the settlers of the time had been left behind, almost from day 2. That was what they inherited. Kawiti, in later after the wars of the North, encouraged Ngāti Hine to hold to the peace. And we have held to the peace with all the passion that we can drive. But peace alone will not deliver anymore to our people unless we have a place. And Māori wards in this local government offers that to us. Don't be afraid. Do not be afraid. Do not let yourselves be driven to a misunderstanding that what you are giving Māori must be taken away from somebody else. Because so many people look at what we are proposing here, and many Pākehā, it seems to me, feel that if Māori must be given these wards, then they must have taken it away from me. They must have reduced me. What we're looking to is to add a difference to the gathering around this table. We will find out what those wards, how those wards will make up when you make the first step of courage and conviction that here in the North, where this nation was born, that we are going to set the example, not wait for government down in Wellington to tell us to do it. We will have the courage to do it for ourselves. We will have the courage to work together as was promised.
1 more minute.
I want to give that gladly up to anybody else from Ngāti Hine, but I'm on such a swing right now that I want every second now to address those of you. There are 4 of you at this table who have already declared your confidence. What we are looking at today is the other 4 of you to step across the line, to take the courage to be who we can be. We're not asking to be divided from you. We still have to work out who would stand, what Māori we are qualified. All those things have to follow. But the first part of it all is when you take the courage to open the door. When you allow Māori wards to become a reality. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hāpera hama Kirapiti Edward on behalf of Ngāti Trust.
Katangi atu kai ia ki te moana. E ko Ngāti Wai ko te moana e haereana. Katangi atu kai ia ki te tua whenua. Ko Ngāti Wai ko te tua whenua e tauana. Kua tahi ake ka mihi ki a koe e koro e moko. Nā ui tuku I te reo karakia haka puere tā tātou kaupapa. O ti rātō mai a hoki. Ki te arahi tēnei kaupapa. Kia tōia mai anō ki runga I te tepu neki. Nei rātō iwi e mihi atu ana kia koe. Pāpera hama Edward taku ingoa. He uria hau. No ngā hapu huhua o Ngāti Wai. My principal hapu a te whānau arangi whakāhu. Te aki tai. Ngāti Rehua. Ngāti Wai ki Aotea. Te Waiariki. Te Ngare Raumati. I'm the chairman of the Ngāti Wai Trust Board and a resident within the Far North District. Ngāti Wai has 14 marae. Some are situated in the Far North. This submission outlines Ngāti Wai Trust Board's full support to the establishment of Māori wards in the Far North District Council. In 2020, our iwi saw you vote down the establishment of Māori wards. Through the amendment bill to the Local Electoral Act of 1 March 2021, we are now able to again advocate to Council to vote yes to establish Māori wards. The Far North District Council stands alone as the only council in Te Taitokerau who does not support Māori wards. This is your opportunity to do the right thing for Hapu, iwi, the Māori community, and indeed the Far North by voting yes. The option of establishing Māori wards was developed by Parliament to enhance the role of Māori in local government. For too long, it has been compromised by blatant racist legislation, and we commend the courage of Minister Mahuta for bringing forward the changes to the Local Electoral Act. The Local Government Act 2002 recognises the Crown's responsibility to take appropriate account of the principles of Te Tiriti o Waitangi and to maintain and improve opportunities for Māori to contribute to local government decision-making processes. This is reinforced by a Human Rights Commission recommendation that the Māori voice be heard and represented in local government. The Local Government Commission has advised that given Council's obligations under the Local Government Act 2002 relating to Māori participation, the option of Māori wards warrants careful consideration. We know that the Far North District Council has had some 2 years of workshops and hui to understand the opportunity of Māori wards and how providing for Māori representation at the decision-making table demonstrates a further commitment to honouring the articles of Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Our tribal territories are divided across 4 territorial authorities, being Auckland City, Kaipara District Council, Whangarei District Council, and the Far North District Council. None of this was by our design. We are pleased that both Whangarei District Council and the Kaipara Council have taken the courageous principled position of establishing Māori wards. The Ngāti Wai Trust Board represents over 9,000 registered beneficiaries, and we've travelled here today to Kaipohe to remind you of our tino rangatiratanga and our collective obligations to Te Tiriti o Waitangi and Te Hakaputanga o Te Rangatiratanga o New Tireni. Often we overlooked in the northern end of our tribal rohe as being part of the Far North District. Today we have come so that we are heard and counted on a matter that will be recorded as a significant historical milestone. My question is, where will you be placed on that record? Will you continue the status quo of systemic racist bias, or will you be recorded as a courageous leader with integrity? Te Taitokerau is the home and kaitiaki of Te Tiriti o Waitangi. It's time for this to be reflected and enacted upon in Far North District Council. Today we hope you find the courage to stand as Kaipara and Whangarei have and honour the role as a region as kaitiaki of Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Tēnei a Ngāti Wai, e hakamahara atu nei kia koutou ki te tino rangatiratanga o te Māori o tira te mana o ngā whakaoati, kei te Tiriti o Waitangi me te whakaputanga o te rangatiratanga o New Tireni. Kia ora tātou. Kia ora.
Darlene Hannah Wilson.
I
e ngā mana e ngā reo, e ngā rauranga tira mā tēnā rā tātou katoa. Your Worship, the Mayor, councillors, my greetings to you. My name is Darlene Tanahoff-Nielsen. I stand here as a descendant, as a mokopuna of Te Taitokero, many rangatira who signed Te Tiriti o Waitangi, but also as a direct descendant of the first white woman born in Aotearoa. I'm standing here with my whaia, and I would like to keep my segment short, so that she may contribute.
Lovely, thank you.
We've heard about our tiriti obligations, and that part is fine for me, but I want to echo the sentiment of Matua Waihoroi when we talk about courage, the courage to move forward. Our tupuna, all of our tupuna, were aspirational people. They came here from far away, and they came to create a new life, all of us together. And it's in that spirit that I would like to echo his sentiment around courage, moving us into, I dare say, a modern era of politics. But the beginning, but the first step, it's not an ideal, but it is the beginnings of moving into a modern era. And indeed, if we were to look around and we see within Te Taitokero today, the different councils that have already taken that step, I would encourage you to be part of that and lead us out into that future. I'm always looking for, because there are so many challenges at the moment, we can talk about climate change or things that are really happening for us, poverty and so forth on the ground. We need to be able to engage as many of the affected people into our decision-making processes as possible, be that at the level of council decision-making or in the community boards, etc. below. We need all hands on deck. I acknowledge that this is not going to be easy. But, you know, in the same way that we're asking you to be courageous and to step up, we too will step forward and lift our game and be part of that process about how these wards and so forth, if going ahead, can be determined. I'd like to give some time to fire.
Tēnā rā koutou.
Kia ora.
Tēnā koutou te iwi, ngā hapu o ngā puhi. Kei konei hoki anga ki a kupe e tuana I roanga nui a koutou. Te tautoko I tā tātou kaupapa e tēnei rā. Your Worship, koutou e noko ana I runga I tēnei kaumihera. My name is Ipu Absalom, and I'm no stranger to you people. Retired secondary school teacher. Current involvement has been negotiator for the Rawene campus, beginning the process of establishing Te Wānanga Hokianga. I tautoko these other people who have spoken before me. So I'm going to take a slight pathway to this. The road to that negotiation has been long, has been hard. It took a good 3-4 years of travel, meetings, emails, phone calls, attending meetings to waylay the mayor at one meeting, and councillors calling them in to our meetings, to attend our meetings. Mayor Carter, you were reported as having said that they weren't ready after you voted against the Māori ward for Northland. I'd like to believe that those words were meant for Pākehā, because they certainly did not relate to Hatu. We have been ready since the signing of the Treaty of Waitangi. We are able.
One more minute.
Okay, we are able to make decisions for our own land, our resources and environment since the signing of the Treaty of Waitangi. Hokianga and Taiamai would have been in a better position economically, environmentally. Our health and well-being would have been better situated. We are in an impoverished state, and we should not tolerate the situation any longer. I would not have spent 3-4 years negotiating for the campus of Rawene to educate our hapu, and it is time wasted for us. Your positive vote for Māori ward will bring two people together to work towards a better life for the people of Hokianga and Kaikohe. We could do it, and I know we could do it. And I encourage you to be brave really, you don't need much encouragement, do you? I think we need to put something under you two. Ka kori ia koutou. Something like that.
And can I thank all of you who have presented, and thank you for all of you for the respectful way in which you listened to the presentations, deputations. So thank you all very much. We now come to the formal meeting itself, and I'm going to ask Moko as the proponent of the motion to stand and speak. Just it's a point of order, is it? Yes. I'm sorry, I can't. It's against our rules, so I'm asking Moko to make a speech. Moko, the floor is yours.
Sure.
You can move your motion and make your speech, please.
I move that the Whanau District Council establish Māori wards in accordance with Schedule 1, Part 121 of the Local Electoral Act for the 2022-2025 elections. I believe I will be seconded by Councillor Richardson. Firstly, I would like to acknowledge the support shown for this motion here in this room today. Manuhiri and Haukainga who are here today in this room, in the council's reception and in the memorial hall, and all whānau who are tuned in live on our council YouTube page. I acknowledge you all. I acknowledge the Kaikoura Hokianga voters who put me here to be able to speak to this. I acknowledge my mum who brought me into this world, my dad who is watching online, my whānau and my tupuna, and those who are here are wairua. I acknowledge you all, but my speech today isn't for you. My speech today is for those who wield all the power today, and they are the 10 of us around this table. We as elected members are tasked with making decisions for our wider whānau here in the whānau, all 70,000 members of our whānau family. The home of our whānau, the Whanau District, is full of history. Hokianga in the west is the birthplace for Māori and the departing point of our founding ancestor Kupe. The Bay of Islands in the east is the home of our country's founding documents. E Hakaputanga o te rangatiratanga o Nutireni, the Declaration of the Independence of New Zealand in 1835 and Te Tiriti o Waitangi in 1840. Te Heku in the north is the home of Te Rerenga Wairua, the departing place of our souls as they head to Hawaii. Our district and our whānau are the guardians of this history, and today it is time for the 10 of us here to make history for the whānau by voting in favour of the establishment of Māori wards. On the 29th of October 2020, at the same council meeting where this first came to the table, I wrote down some advice given by our very own Mayor Kara. His hakatauaki was, it is because of bold decisions that we make progress. This is a bold decision that you are being asked to make today, but it is my ultimate belief that this decision will be progress for the whānau. The representation for Māori is nothing new in our country. In fact, the Māori Representation Act of 1867 enabled the special representation of Māori for the House of Representatives and provincial councils 154 years ago today. Provinces were the forerunners to our modern regional, district and city councils of local government. Māori electorates have been around for so long that in the legislation the South Island's name is the Middle Island. The rationale for this motion lays out the timeline in the workshops that we have had for this kaupapa, and iwi have repeatedly called on us to establish Māori wards to enable specific representation of Māori at this council table. Māori wards are a mechanism to enable this through the Local Electoral Act, and that is what we are deciding here today. Representation. Bringing Māori representation to the highest level of our council, to this table here. Yes, there are other mechanisms available. Iwi or hapu members on our council committees, for example. But this conversation isn't a this or that decision. And for other councils it has been. It's an and conversation. Gisborne District, Northern Region, Palmerston North City, Ruapehu District, South Taranaki District, Taranaki Region, Taupo District, Wairoa District and Whangarei District. all have some form of Māori standing or advisory committee or appointees to their committees, and either have or have decided to also have Māori wards or constituencies because of the benefits of both. I look forward to seeing progress in this space, but not at the cost of the mechanism before us today through the Local Electoral Act to establish Māori wards. We recently received our council marked result, and I am proud that our council has a higher grade than before. One of the areas of improvement highlighted in the report states, relationships with iwi are sometimes poor, despite attempts by council to improve engagement and to establish support mechanisms. Today, the 10 of us here get to vote on a mechanism that iwi themselves have asked for us to improve our engagement with them. Let us be culturally responsive to these calls, and the next time Council Mark comes around, we might just be able to make the leap from a BB grade to a AAA council. Our informal engagement with our Far North whānau saw 499 responses with over 80% support. Now, I know that some elected members have concerns around consultation and making this decision for our Far North family based off 499 responses. What I want you to think about is the fact that we will be making multi-million-dollar decisions in our long-term plan for the next 10 years based off of only 800 responses in our consultation for the LTP. This decision today isn't going to cost our ratepayers any more for remuneration. It isn't a multi-million-dollar decision. The value of the outcomes that will come out from the opening of this door to this table for Māori representation is priceless. But I can tell you this, it will have multi-million-dollar returns for our district if we can improve our relationships with iwi and hapu, and you can ask Waikato councils about that. I also know that there are real concerns about dividing our Far North whānau by ethnicity to allow specific representation. Yes, you will be dividing us, but you will be dividing us for electoral purposes to bring us together at this table. We, at this table, all see the merits of dividing our Far North family based on where they live, to elect representatives based on 3 wards, the 3 wards that are represented here today. And at our most recent representation review last week, the merits of multiple ward-based representation came across strongly. This is the same principle. I want to quote another of our Far North leaders at this table. Her advice was, if we never make a decision because we've always done that, we need to take that into account. It's not a reason for us to not consider moving forward. This is something that the Far North has never done. It's never had Māori wards. It's never had specific Māori representation at this table. We struggled to reach our whole district. Our turnout at the last election was 47%. To move forward as a district, I urge you all to support this motion, to challenge yourself today to try something different. The legislation in this motion today allows for Māori wards for 2 election cycles. 9 of us saw the merits of trying something different by switching our voting system from FPP to STV for 2 election cycles. Try something different today. Try something different that also honours Te Tiriti o Waitangi and not only has the support of 408 responses in favour of the establishment of Māori wards, but also 35% of our whānau who make up the Māori electoral roll population, 25,120 Far Northers. Representation here, we can enable at a local government level similar to central government electorates which have been around for 154 years. As a part of our representation review, we also get to decide on how many councillors we have at this table, and the number of Māori ward or general ward councillors will be proportional to our electoral roll ratios. So it will not detract from the 64% or 45,930 Far Northers who make up the general electoral population. We can also increase our number of councillors at this table to 29 if we want in the legislation. Overlapping electoral wards can only be a good thing in uniting us. If we have an increased number in the number of councillors, we could retain our current structure and have overlapping dual wards for the Māori electoral roll north and south. But now I'm getting into detail. Make this historic decision today, the big picture opening the door. Tomorrow we can discuss the particulars, the boundaries, the numbers. Tomorrow we can carry on with conversations on how to improve wider community engagement. Māori wards, look at how many people are here. Tomorrow, we can work towards participation elements for iwi and hapu at this table, but today, we're here to vote on specific Māori representation at this table through Māori wards. Finally, the vision of the Far North is he whenua rangatira. Support Rangatira to represent Māori at this table by supporting this motion to establish Māori wards today. The mission of the Whānau District Council is creating great places supporting our people. Support the cause of our whānau here today. Support this motion.
Kia ora. I understand, Councillor Smith, you wish to second the
Thank
motion.
you, Your Worship. Today I'd like to acknowledge our community members who are here with us, participating in our process and exercising their democratic right. Ngā mihi nui, kia koutou. Once again, I'd also like to acknowledge the grace and inclusion offered to the members of this council by Te Kaho o Taonui, our treaty partners, who willingly came into this room, worked with us in the process to consider the establishment of Māori wards. I hear you. I look forward to continuing the conversation with you as to how Whānau District Council might better enable Māori participation in our processes. Today, we are here to debate the option of inclusive representation. I acknowledge the 499 of you in our communities who chose to engage in our informal consultation process around the engagement of the establishment of Māori wards, with 408 of you, or 81.76%, in support of the establishment. Also to those of you who took time to engage with your elected members and have your voices heard, conversations at barbecues, in the queues at supermarkets, on the football pitch sideline. I found value in every one of those conversations, both for and against, and I feel better equipped to cast this vote on your behalf. I want to acknowledge the Minister and the mahi that she has done to give us the opportunity to reconsider here today, free from the challenges that came with knowing that a decision to establish may well be overturned, resulting in a substantial cost to our ratepayer base. I'd like to acknowledge the councils who have resolved to establish Māori wards, and especially to Hamilton City Council, who have recently shown bravery and willingness to listen to their communities and take that consideration back to the table. Finally, I want to acknowledge the bravery and leadership of my colleague and friend, Councillor Tipanea. Your advocacy, determination and willingness to learn with an open mind is an inspiration, and I'm grateful to have you here at this table representing the people of our district. Today, I speak in support of the Whānau District Council establishing Māori wards in accordance with Schedule 1, Part 121 of the Local Electoral Act for the 2022 and 2025 local government elections. I implore you, my colleagues, around the table to have the courage and integrity to move forward and to support this motion with me. This support is not based on my views as an individual, but views that have been made to me by our communities in numerous ways over the last 12 months. I sit here today in support of this motion, confident that I have the mandate to speak on their behalf. I also sit here as a Pākehā woman with whakapapa to the hapu of Te Māhurihuri, but with a privilege that has led me to be elected to this table. I willingly name this privilege, knowing that what separates it from entitlement is gratitude. Whew. I am grateful that the door to representation lies open to me as a Pākehā woman, and I can only hope that with your vote today, we will open this door wide to anyone who is willing to step through it. I also sit here as a member of the Local Government New Zealand Young Elected Members Network, who represent 14% of local government elected members across Aotearoa, and who have identified the way in which Te Tiriti is upheld as one of the highest priorities for the future of local government. In November 2018, I was fortunate to attend the annual Local Government New Zealand Young Elected Member Hui in New Plymouth. At this hui, Hona Wano Bryant spoke to us about the importance of diversity, inclusion and empowerment of both peoples. She quoted herself that in order to build a community, you need a heart for unity. In doing so, be compassionate to others, but most importantly to yourself. Diversity will not be truly achieved unless there is a combination of true inclusion and compassion. This powerful message was recently reiterated to me. It was when this very same sentiment was echoed by Dame Jenny Tippie as she spoke on International Women's Day, that the enormity of, yet beautiful simplicity of this equation is what sits at the foundation of this decision we are debating today. This equation is also echoed in the fundamental principles for applying the intent of the Treaty of Waitangi, the reason I implore you, my colleagues, to support this motion in front of you today. I would like to take the opportunity to remind you all how these principles are applicable to our decision here today. Participation, that a decision should reflect the community, the proportion of Māori in a district or region, and provide Māori with an opportunity to have direct input into the governance decision-making of council. Establishing Māori wards is the only way available to us to ensure Māori representation at the council table. Appointment of Māori representatives at committee and community board level while ensuring participation will not provide a way to ensure Māori representation at the council table. Appointment of representation to the council table is not legally possible. Protection. Enable the provision for guaranteed Māori representation at the governance table. We have heard numerous times that we have 60% at our Māori at our governance table. As a considered member of that group of 6 members, I fundamentally disagree with this. Yes, I whakapapa Māori. Yes, I was fortunate to be raised with an awareness of Te Ao Māori. No, I do not sit at this council table with an ability to bring that worldview into our decision making, or truly represent that whakapapa that I need to fully explore and understand. I challenge the claim that 60% of our elected council are Māori. The establishment of Māori wards will ensure that the door to representation is opened wide and propped open with a doorstop for the 2022 and 2025 elections. Partnership. Acting in good faith, having heard directly from Māori. Kia ora. Recognising an equal partnership with Māori, acknowledging the role we must uphold in that partnership, and maintain a willingness to embed that partnership into the DNA of our organisation from the top down. Far North District Council have a vision, and you have heard this from my colleague. He whenua rangatira. Sorry, I'm very nervous. A district of sustainable prosperity and well-being. Our values that underpin that vision are manua topo, unity of purpose and working together, kaitiakitanga, environmental stewardship and sustainability, mama tangata, respect and fairness, te tiriti o Waitangi, partnership, te tangata, strong cultural identities, whanaungatanga, family, community, connecting and sharing. These values are displayed throughout the principle of the motion in front of you today. So what do we know? We know that throughout 30 plus pieces of legislation that we are accountable as a council to, we have an obligation to uphold Te Tiriti o Waitangi and enable Māori participation at the council governance level. Are we currently fulfilling these obligations? Kāhori, we are not. We know that the establishment of Māori wards will ensure that we uphold Te Tiriti o Waitangi and fulfil our partnership obligations. There are no financial implications involved in a vote to support this motion today. We know that 81% of those who participated in our non-binding poll process were in support of the establishment of Māori wards. I challenge you, our members, to find another example that this council is engaged with its communities on with that level of support. In 2020, this council called for a process that would enable us to make this decision with our communities. Together, we held a non-binding poll. This non-binding poll has clearly filled our sails with the wishes of our communities. 81% of our people have told us to establish Māori wards. We know that we have the full support of our treaty partners, Te Kaho o Taonui, to establish Māori wards in the Far North. We know that as a council, we have a desire to ensure our representation and participation is a true representative of our community diversity. With 51% of our population identifying as Māori, this is the best first step we can ask for. Let's be bold, progressive and responsive to the calls of our people. Let's put meaning behind this conversation and open the door to inclusion and compassion. A vote in support of this motion will signal your willingness to progress meaningful relationship with our treaty partners with an open mind and an open heart. We have held a non-binding poll. We are today's leaders, elected and sworn in by oath to make decisions today, not to delay them for another group of leaders who will probably look the same as what it does today around this table. This is about representation. Appointing to committees is not representation, it is participation. It is, however, our opportunity for an and avenue to uphold Te Tiriti o Waitangi. To close, I would like to quote an inspirational wahine toa in our community, Huhana Linden. This is not an equity issue, nor is it a question of population. It is time for us as the Far North District Council to acknowledge that the tupuna of our tangata whenua signed Te Tiriti o Waitangi and that is entrenched in the Local Government Act. There is nothing to lose by establishing Māori wards, no financial implications, no impact on our organisational risk matrix, no change in strategic direction. However, we have so very much to gain by walking the talk, opening the door and being meaningful treaty partners. Our people have spoken and it is our democratically elected role to listen and consider their voices with an open mind. We have a partnership obligation through the founding of this country enforced by legislation that we are not currently upholding. Today is the day to change that, to make leadership decisions that will shape our district for generations to come. Hashtag mokopuna decisions. Kia waka tōmori, te haere whakamua. I walk backwards into the future with my eyes fixed on the past. Tēnā rā tātou katoa.
and I must also tell the council I got the time mixed up. You only 5 minutes, and you would have had.
I appreciate the extra time you wish.
It's a pleasure. So I want to take the opportunity of moving an amendment, which I have circulated amongst the elected members, and the amendment reads, and I will speak to it. Council resolves to hold a non-binding poll on Maori wards as part of the 2022 council elections, and recommends that, having been informed by the poll results that the incoming council considers introducing Maori wards for the 2025 elections. And C, council immediately reconsiders its current committee structure and membership and delegations to ensure iwi hapu membership to council and community board committees.
It's another motion.
Because of my experience gained from my days of working in the Hokianga, I am very proud of the input that I had, and it was significant in the early stages of the Whenua Maori Amendment Bill, along with Willow Jean, Janice and other staff from this council, working with government at the time, and in particular Te Ura o Flavel, which has resulted in the bill that was passed in Parliament, which addressed the issue of debt on Maori land. It will be of great benefit to Maori landowners and also to the community at large. We will all benefit. On the other hand, the MOU system that Willow and I introduced, along with others, with the best of intentions when we came into council, has not been successful, mainly because the parties involved, that is the elected members, us, council staff, and the iwi hapu themselves, have not been active in pursuing the objectives of the MOUs. The outcome has been disappointing. It would be very easy for us to put in place Maori wards and then sit back and say, we've done our bit, and now it's over to them because we do not communicate, share, work together. It could become another failure. I don't want the Maori representation to be tokenism, I want it to be meaningful. In discussions I've had in the community, and believe you me, there have been many and great numbers. Order please. Most people are saying, I don't know enough about what is trying to be achieved, and until I do, I'm inclined not to be supported. There is a great opportunity for us to take our community with us by making sure that they are well informed and that there is genuine debate in the community at all levels on this issue, amongst families, business communities, sporting clubs, old and young, and of course iwi hapu. At present, there is very little understanding of how the Maori ward electoral system or process would work.
You don't know.
Order, please. It needs to be understood that a person can enrol on one roll only, and that will be on the Maori roll or the general roll. Given that they will only have one vote, they could water down Maori participation in an area like the far north, where 50% or more of the population are of Maori. I don't want Maori wards to be tokenism, I want them to be meaningful. We are unique in regard as a reason for Maori wards was to ensure that there was representation where the Maori were a minority. We were reminded just recently in our case, it is not the case, as was recently pointed out by one of our Maori leaders, that the population in this district is 52% Maori. The above resolution is in line with a strong belief in democracy that the ratepayers should be the ones to have an informed decision to guide councils by stating their views in a poll. As far as I am concerned, we have to consult on everything else: planning, resource management, building, roading, rating, and this is a very important part of our democratic process, and the community have a right to have their say. I will now pass the floor to Councillor Collard to second the motion and to make a comment.
Point of order, Your Worship.
Point of order.
We've discussed this, but understanding orders 22.5 amendments must be relevant and not direct negatives. I feel that this amendment is a direct negative to my initial motion.
Order, thank you.
And I think that there would be benefit in hearing the legal opinion that was sought as to why this isn't a direct negative.
Thank you. Can I ask Carla, our legal advisor, to give us that advice?
Certainly. Thank you, Your Worship. Councillors in our audience this afternoon. The legal opinion on whether or not it is a direct negative under our rule Standing Order 22.5, it isn't simply because if you take the essence of your motion, that it serves to create Maori wards. The wording of the amendment made here simply requests a public opinion, keeping your motion live, and then departing to a later date to establish Maori wards. Now, that legal opinion has been discussed with both the Government of New Zealand,
Order.
external legal opinion as well, and that same opinion was shared. I'm delivering that opinion to you today.
Thank you, Carla. I understand that you are simply delivering the opinion across to us. I also just wanted it to be shared here.
Yep.
Because I think that we're putting our council at risk when this is legally challenged. So I just wanted it on.
Thank you, Moko. I appreciate that, for Councillor Tiffany, and thank you, Carla, for the explanation. Councillor Collard.
I second the amendment. My personal opinion is irrelevant. I've been elected to the role of councillor by the Tihipi ward. I've taken an oath to represent the whole district. That's everybody. I believe I would be somewhat negligent in my responsibilities were I to vote for a change to our democratic position without having a substantial indicator from the district as a whole. That would be by way of a poll, albeit a non-binding poll. If the majority of the people in the Far North District want to introduce Maori wards, so be it. I will support it with all my efforts.
Be generous.
Thank you. That's it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, it's been moved and the amendment's been moved and seconded. Now, under our standing orders, what I intend to do now is to ask if anybody wishes to speak against. And I will take 3 speakers against, up to 3 speakers against, and then I will also alternate. If there's people who want to speak for, I will also ask for that to happen. So I saw David and Kelly, which wants to go first to speak against? David? And Councillor Clem, thank you.
Thank you. Nā mihi o te rā ki a koutou, nā rau te rama, nā kuinga, ki te hongo ora tātou, hui mai nei, a tēnā tātou katoa. I speak against this amendment because I think it delays the inevitable. I think we must and should move to Māori wards, and I think we should do that at the earliest opportunity, which we can achieve by passing the original motion. It's a little bit of deja vu all over again. We were around this table just a few months ago having the same conversation about Māori wards or not. What's changed in the meantime is a legislative change. The Minister chose under urgency to push through a change to the legislation. For some people, that was an abuse of democracy, the end of the world as we know it. I believe it was an enhancement of democracy. The only representative change in local government that required or enabled any sort of poll of opposition was a change to Māori wards. Any other form can be done around this table on any day of the year. So it was an enhancement, a levelling of the playing field. What else has changed in the meantime? We do have some substantive feedback from the survey we conducted as a fairly late addition, it must be said, to our consultation around other issues. I've seldom seen a more overwhelming majority in favour of moving to Māori wards. Something of those who identified as Māori, there were hundreds in favour and a mere couple of dozen who opposed. Those who identified as non-Māori, it was about a 60-40 support in favour of moving immediately to Māori wards. That is compelling information, and I respect my colleague, Councillor Collard, you, that he prefers to wait for a more definitive poll, but I think we have what we have. I think the representation here today gives us a pretty clear steer about where the majority lies. It's true, and the point's made, we don't need Māori wards because already we have Māori representation around this table, and that's true. I'm one of those blessed to have whakapapa Māori. I also honour my Pākehā ancestry. The point is, I did not stand for council on the platform of saying I will represent the Māori. That's not the mandate I sought. I don't believe I have that mandate. It is part of my own personal makeup and being, but I wasn't elected on that platform. We need guaranteed Māori representation around this table. And we can't be assured of that by any other means than moving to Māori wards. Moko, I think, mentioned the council mic assessment, and part of that was a critique of our relationship with Hapu and with tangata whenua generally. While I didn't entirely accept the basis of that critique, it is fact that the relationship could be better, stronger and closer than it currently is. And again, I think bringing Māori, giving Māori a guarantee. Finally, I'd say that this sector, the local government sector, is facing enormous change. RMA is getting wiped out. We're going to an entirely new regime over the next 18 months or so. The Three Waters is being substantially altered. I can think of few issues that excite Māori more than management, control, protection of water. I'm not even going to use that ownership word. That's for another day. We've now had a review of local government announced. The form function of local government over the next 30 years is to be reviewed, and almost inevitably we'll see some change. I think it's absolutely critical that we have Māori voices around this table while we express a view from the Far North District, from Taipokara, about these multiple streams of reform that we are facing. And I get back to my point. I think we need to guarantee Māori representation, as we do in Parliament. We guarantee Māori representation through the model, through the form of the Māori seats. Māoridom want to retain those. That's very clear. There's no move from within Māoridom to abolish the seats. I think the same logic applies at local government level. We want those guaranteed seats. I can think of fewer ways of enriching the debate around this table than by bringing in Te Ao Māori as a right, as a guaranteed representation.
One minute, David.
Thank you. Already today we've heard some powerful commentary, and I appreciate the sometimes heated and well-informed and passionate submissions we've had from those people who spoke, and we thank you for that. It is time, I think, for Taipokara. I think we are unique in the country. Perhaps Tairāwhiti will come close, of having a majority Māori population, and yet there is no guaranteed place for Māori around the seat. I've got experience of both levels, central and local government. And I've always maintained that local government make more decisions that affect people's everyday lives about land, water, what you may or may not do with your own home and property. We make some compelling decisions about that here at this table. I will wrap up there, and thank you for attending. And I speak against the amendment and support the original.
Thank you. Can I ask Councillor Boy to comment, please? And then I'll take Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Worship. Ngā mihi nui to you all here today. I see some of you here from Te Raroa, from Mahipara. And I did make a public statement about my original vote and the logic to that. You also know that Part C of it is with immediate effect to initiate iwi participation, but in essence, in the legislation, it's called participation. However, what is proposed is iwi representation by iwi appointed representatives to committees with voting rights. And also, what has not been discussed previously is our community boards. And having iwi participation and representation on those also. We're unique to other parts of the country in that fact. We have community boards, and many councils don't have that. And I am perplexed as to why we haven't had that as part of our discussion. So there's no doubt in my mind that we need Māori participation as part of our council processes. There are other options for Māori participation and to give Māori a seat at the table instead of Māori wards. However, I feel that there has not been sufficient discussion about these options.
Our council, as I said, is one of the few to have community boards. And I would like to see participation and representation as part of those boards, as well as additional delegations to those committees to make decisions, better decisions on behalf of all of our community, including iwi Māori and including youth. We're here to represent the whole community. I would like to point out the unintended consequences of Māori wards in our district. Is there are many iwi in Hapu, more than 200, not just 2 or 3 like other districts. There would only be 3 elected seats of the whole districts if Māori wards were established. Those elected to those seats should be from one iwi or Hapu. If Māori seats were elected at large across the whole district, or it could be 1 seat per ward. If you look at our current wards, Haku, Pukianga, Paikuhe and Eastern Ward. Would elected seats at large in the whole district truly be representative of the views of all our iwi and Hapu? I've been considering this point from the debate today and from the feedback that I've heard. Iwi appointed representatives could mean having different representatives on all of our 4 existing committees of council. We're currently looking to review those committees and or our 3 existing community boards, and that could result in more community boards if we establish more boards in the next election. All of these areas have different specialisations in the committee areas: strategy, infrastructure, regulatory, risk and finance, all of which I know would benefit from having iwi appointed representatives or participation. As you know, I voted against Māori wards in the last vote, as I felt there's not enough consideration and consultation about all the options had been undertaken. I know that there's been a lot of discussion about Māori wards. However, when questioning those that I speak to, and not saying that I speak to everybody, they did not have a full understanding about what in practice it would mean. The commentary around iwi elected representatives to committees, I feel, have been lost in the discussion. I will be supporting the amendment today, and I look forward to iwi appointed representatives on all our committees with voting rights. And I can hear that may not be mana enhancing enough for you here today. However, I feel it's a step forward.
Order. Thank you. Order.
And I'd like to point out as well that the poll itself is proposed to be a public poll as part of the to also get the feedback from the whole district, and that Māori wards with the new existing structure for iwi appointed representatives on committees would be with immediate effect, not having to wait till the elections, and would be established to roll into the next council.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you for your comments. Can I come to Kelly?
Kia ora. Thank you. Can I just start by thanking everybody for coming along today, but also apologising in advance. I feel the way this is going today, and I'm already really upset about it. Yeah. But I need to respond to this amendment that I do not support, and I never cry. So at the moment we're in our 6 yearly representation review. So if we do not establish Māori wards today and it goes to a poll at the next election, we then have to have another representation review if Māori wards are voted on then. So I think that you're already giving it a handbrake, because it'll be coupled with, it's going to cost extra money to establish Māori wards, putting out that petition. So not the petition, sorry, the poll that's attached. no, not the poll, the representation review. That's more resource. What is it? 10 to 30K to go through a representation review. We're doing that now. That's why it's important that we establish them now. We've heard from 408 out of 499 that supported it in our own poll or engagement consultation that we did over the whole month of March. And I bet half the people in here who support Māori wards didn't even fill out that poll. So we've got iwi, we've got hapu that support the establishment of Māori wards today. If we wait, we're going to do damage to our hapu and iwi relationships. I can see people walking out already. We've also been reminded that, sorry, I've lost. You know, I'm on the Māori roll, so I vote for my Māori candidate, but it doesn't mean that I don't have, a say and rally for my general candidate, which everyone knows I did. The same kind of thing applies here. People that are not on the Māori roll support Māori ward seats. So if you hold a non-binding poll at the next election, reverse that, you're going to have people who aren't Māori voting against Māori wards. And we saw in the lead up to October, when we did that resolution, how entrenched the mindset that Te Tiriti is not a document to be upheld and honoured is in some of the people out in our community, in our district. I really implore you to listen to the voices that we heard today, all our rangatira that stood up and asked for you to change your vote today. It's going to be wonderful. The Wairua in here, if you say yes to Māori wards and vote against this amendment, we're going to walk on cloud 9. Honestly, everybody. I think everyone has covered everything, and I just thank you, Mokoti Pamia, for bringing the resolution, for being brave, and us for supporting you. And Rachel, you did a bomb effort. Awesome. It's wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for being here today.
I'm going to speak. Last time I voted for Māori wards, and given the opportunity, I'll vote for it again. And I'll tell you why, because whenever you get amalgamation of power, like around this table, and wealth, you get poverty. The rising tide of deprivation we see around us in all our small rural communities attests to the truth of that statement. So, and if we're going to successfully tackle those issues that we see thrown at us, and social and cultural and economic and environmental challenges we've got, then we have to strategically, as someone quoted, strategically move towards a devolution of governance. And that's what I've written. I can't read my writing, which means that we've got to take away the power. So I listened to all my fellow councillors around the table, and actually why are we all here? We're all here because we do not feel we're getting a voice. And I hear that from every community in the Far North, Pākehā and Māori and the whole lot of them. And I think what has gone wrong, that we're losing our voice. And what's happened is there's been amalgamation of power. And quite honestly, I'll vote for Māori wards because I need you around the table. We are going to halt what David Cleveland mentioned, and that's the further amalgamation. The Three Waters is going. The potential unitary authorities being talked about, or whatever that's going to look like. If we are going to try and get local governance and keep it, preserve it, we need to be on the table. Not only you need to be on the table, everybody needs to be on the table. And that's why I looked at that statement, together we are one nation. And that's how it has to work. Otherwise, it'll all end up in Wellington, and Māori wards, whatever it be, will not make any difference. And that's, so I'm happy to have that. That's an improvement, a step in the right direction. But as I told John, that point C up there, which he had, and that is to immediately consider committee structures and put in place that delegation now so we can get Hapu around the table with voting rights. If you don't do that, it'll be too late, even for the 2022 election. So I'd like that to be included whatever way we decide today in whatever option.
Could I move it for an amendment to the amendment?
Yes, you can.
Can I drop out A and B and just have C?
Yes.
Without the original?
Someone else
Order.
will speak first, but you
Order.
Order.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Councillor Stratford can foreshadow an amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Should the amendment fail?
Yep. Thank you. So, should the amendment fail, then she can foreshadow an
She's
amendment.
foreshadowing now. If the amendment fails,
Yes.
she will be introducing an alternate.
Yes, that's right. Thank you. Councillor Radich, do you wish to make a comment? You're okay? All right, Councillor Court, you're not making comment yet. Okay, so if the motion is before us now, the amendment is put and fails, then we've got a foreshadowed amendment on the floor.
Amendment to amendment.
No, you put this amendment and then we vote. So I now intend to put the vote, but just before I do, I just want to make a concluding statement. Occasionally one comes across a moment in time, whether it be personal, your organisation, your community, your district, or your regional nation. It is a moment in time when the decision you make will last way beyond the current time and impact on generations to come. We now have a moment in time to work with our community, our people, our district to ensure that what we do will benefit all involved through informing, consulting, listening and working together democratically. Recently we commemorated ANZAC Day, when our forebears gave of themselves to ensure a positive future for our nation. More recently, we stood as a team together to ward off the negative impact of COVID. Now is our moment in time as a community, as a district, as a people, together to work as a team to set a platform that will ensure representation and participation for all in our community in a way that we govern locally for our current and future generations and allows the establishment of Maori wards. So I'm going to ask you now, for those who are in favour of the amendment, to raise their hands, please. All in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, those against? Okay, the motion is, the amendment is lost. So now we will go back to the original, Kelly, you want to foreshadow an amendment to the original motion?
If it so pleases everybody, I would like to add, and that council immediately reconsiders its current committee structure and membership and delegations to ensure iwi hapu membership to council and community board committees. And that's in line with what Councillor Boyd has been wanting to achieve through
John going to second
participation.
Do you wish to speak further to it? To the amendment, I'm seconding it.
I know that. Oh, it's just, so the first part is the original motion.
Yes, so it's the original motion, and then there's so that will become A, and then number 2 will become council immediately reconsidered.
I understand there has been some work done by staff, but I'm not sure if we'll have enough for the LTP.
No, but we can start as soon as we possibly can.
But I know they've done some preliminary numbers.
That's right. So it's being moved. Sorry, do you want to make any more comment, Kelly?
I just, my comment would be, this would be revolutionary. We have, talked about representation. Representation is our goal, but we also need participation. It's in Waihoroi's and opportunity for council. It ticks everybody's boxes. Maddie.
Okay, thank you very much. I've seconded the motion. What will you want to speak to the amendment?
I would like to speak to the amendment, Mayor Carter. but I also know through my Te Ao Māori portfolio that Iwi and Hapu had asked to co-construct what that that is absolutely important.
Yep. No, we understand it. That's very important.
Deputy Mayor Cook has passed over to me that Councillor Stratford can ask my leave to include it in my original motion. But I'm happy for her name and your name to stay as with it as an amendment.
Thank you. I think that's an important point. Does anyone else want to comment? Because otherwise I'll put the amendment.
I'll speak on behalf of that. You've heard what I've said before,
Yeah,
and also as Hitler knows and others have already been discussing in the community on that, so there's a lot of support at that level.
Thank you.
I support.
Councillor Foy.
Point of order, Your Worship, is the current motion A and B together?
Yes, they will. Once we pass this part, it will become, I will put the whole motion, in fact, as
That we establish Māori wards?
that we establish Māori wards and the committees as well.
Yeah.
I will put it as one motion. Okay, so does that answer your question? What I will do, just so you understand, everybody understands, we have an amendment, which on, order please. Order. We have an amendment, which I'm going to put to be voted on, okay, which is that C be included in the original motion. Assuming that's passed, then I'll put the motion together. So Moko's motion plus C will become the substantive motion, and we will vote on that. Okay, so I'm now going to put the motion, that amendment that says to include C, council immediately reconsiders the current committee structure and membership and delegations to ensure iwi hapu membership to council committees and community board committees. Okay. Okay. Your membership of council committees and community board committees. Can we just put the word committee in after council, please? No, don't take no comment. That's it. And community. Okay, so all in favour of that being added into Moku's resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Right, that's carried. Now the substantive motion becomes that the Far North District Council establish Māori wards in accordance with Schedule 1, Part 2.1 of Local Electoral Act of 2022 and 25 local government elections, and B, immediately reconsiders its current committee structure, membership and delegation, to ensure, that's not quite right, to ensure iwi hapu membership of council committees and community board committees.
I would like to have my right of reply.
Oh, I beg your pardon, of course you can.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Carter. Well, everybody in the room, all of our whānau here, and everyone here at the table, this has been an immense emotional roller coaster personally. Never in my wildest dreams would I think that we would bring to this table the cake and the icing on top for us to vote and representation and participation. But it still comes down to us needing six of us, at least 6 of the 10 here at this table, to still vote it through. Take on board everything that was shared with us. Don't be driven to a misunderstanding. Hold to the peace. Together we are one nation. Have courage. Don't fall to the racism of a system of power. Take careful consideration for the tino rangatiratanga of us becoming treaty partners. Sure.
Thank you very much. Thank you for those comments. This was a right of reply. Is this a point of order? Or,
yes.
Right.
So it's been moved together, A and B.
It will be put as one motion.
So my point of order is to move both separately and not by division.
No.
A, what do you want separately for B?
Thank you. Want to become the mayor, you're very welcome.
What you want?
So we've already voted on B to be included.
I'm asking for them to be voted separately.
No, I'm not going to have them voted separately, Felicity. I'm going to vote for them together as one motion because that's what we agreed on and that's what Kelly moved and I seconded. Okay, so I'm now going to put the motion. Can we have it up on the board, please?
Motion up.
Just so we all understand what we're voting on. Okay, so the Far North District Council establishes Maori wards in accordance with Schedule 1, Part 121 of the Local Electoral Act 2022 for the 2022 and 25 local government elections, and B, immediately reconsiders its current committee structure and membership and delegations to ensure iwi hapu membership to council committees and community board committees. All those in favour, please raise their hands. I beg your pardon. Beg your pardon?
Councillor Foy requested a vote.
Oh, did you?
Oh,
Oh, I beg your pardon. Okay, can we have a vote by division, please?
sure.
We put the vote by division means, so I'm in favour. Do I have a Councillor Court?
I'm opposed.
You're opposed? Councillor Clinton?
Hey, just put your hands up. For goodness sake.
Councillor Collard?
Opposed?
Not little kids.
Councillor Foy?
Opposed, only me.
Councillor Radich?
Banana.
Pardon? Support. Thank you. Councillor Smith?
Support.
Councillor Stratford?
Support.
Councillor Tepanier?
And support.
Councillor Fusich?
I support.
Got it.
The motion is carried, folks.
Good boy.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the lovely song. Can I just ask elected members, order? Can I ask elected members to be in the office immediately, please? All elected members into my office.
Thank you.